happening, everybody? Welcome back to Murder and Coffee, where I kind of just fill my life with random facts about homicides, cults, missing persons, anything really. Sorry this episode is late. It's been really hectic, courtesy of the oh-so-amazing holiday season and work. So, happy 2020, everyone. Alright, so today I decided to do, I decided to do it a while ago, but I opted to do a case from the town that I was born and raised in. So, it's called the hi-fime murders. Alright, picture this. It's April. Let's see here. Best way to describe this. Okay, April 22nd, 1974. Two kids. I call them kids because, at the time they were 20 and 18. Get called in to cover a closing shift at the local hi-fi stereo shop at 2323 Washington Boulevard in Ogden, Utah. And night seems fairly normal. All right, guys. It's a night that it seemed fairly normal. Okay. So, pretty much the employees, Stanley Walker, who's 20, and Michelle Ansley, who's 18 and recently engaged, not together, but, she recently got engaged to her significant other, were in the store finishing up a closing shift. Out of nowhere, two men burst in. And that would be Dale Selby Pierre and William Andrews. Sorry, guys. It's been a long day. All right. So, burst in. Them and a few other guys decide to start robbing the store, but Pierre and Andrews take Stanley and Michelle down into the basement, bind and gag them pretty much, holding them hostage. That's when three other men walked into the store and began to rob the store. Not shortly long after the robbery began, 16-year-old Courtney Naisbitt, he walked in to thank his friend for helping him, or for allowing him to park his car in the parking lot while he ran some errands. At that point in time, he was then taken hostage as well. So, at this point now, we have Courtney, who is a 16-year-old high school male, 20-year-old Stanley, and 18-year-old Michelle, bound in the basement of the hi-fi shop. So, after some time, Stanley's 43-year-old father, Oren Walker, began to get concerned because it was getting really late and normally his son would have been home by then, or at least have called to say, hey, it's taking a little bit longer than expected. So he goes in to the shop and then is put into the basement as well. Not long after that, Courtney Naisbitt's mother, Carol, arrived. looking for her son, who was also late getting home, which was totally out of character for these two. Both Oren and Carol were taken as hostages as well and tied up in the basement. So, this was pretty much a robbery gone wrong from the get-go. Like, seriously. They go in to rob a store, end up with 5 hostages. They can ID them. So, Pierre told Andrews to get something from their van, which Pierre later said he found the drano that he ended up feeding or forcing these 5 hostages to drink in the bathroom of the hi-fi shop. So, Pierre pours it into a cup, tells everyone, oh, no, it's vodka and a German drug. German sleeping pill. Originally, Pierre ordered Oren Walker to administer the liquid to the other hostages. But lo and behold, he refused. At that point, he was bound and gagged and left face down on the basement floor. Pierre and Andrews then propped each of the victims into a sitting position and forced them to drink the liquid, telling them it was vodka laced with sleeping pills. Rather, it was liquid drano. The moment it touched the hostages' lips, enormous blisters rose, and it began to burn their tongues and throats and peel away the flesh around their mouths. Ansley, still begging for her life, was forced to drink the drain cleaner as well, although she was reported by Oren Walker to have coughed less than the other victims. Pierre and Andrews tried to duct tape the hostages' mouths shut to hold quantities of drain cleaner and to silence the screams, but pus oozing from the blisters prevented the adhesive from sticking. Oren, Stanley's father, was the last to be given the substance. He let it ooze out the side of his mouth, which still, even just the slightest amount, I know for a fact it, blisters my hands when I use it. So, if it accidentally gets on me, I have a blister from it. So, just the slightest amount in him, him letting it dribble out the side of his mouth, blisters galore. So, at that point, Oren knew he had to fake it until he made it. He started to act like he was coughing and convulsing, and started mimicking the screams of his son and the fellow hostages. I mean, I can only imagine what this man went through. Oh my God. Pierre became angry because the deaths were taking too long and were too loud and messy. So he shot both Carol and Courtney Naisbitt in the backs of their heads, proving fatal for Carol, but leaving Courtney alive. Pierre then shot at Oren Walker, but missed. He then fatally shot Stanley before again shooting at Oren, this time grazing the back of his head. He then took Ansley to the corner of the basement, forced her at gunpoint to remove her clothes, then repeatedly and brutally raped her after telling Andrews to clear out for 30 minutes. When he was done, he allowed her to use the bathroom while he watched, then dragged her, still naked, back to the other hostages, threw her on her face, and fatally shot her in the back of the head. At that point, the two had noticed, by checking Oren's pulse to make sure that he was dead. No witnesses. Come on, you know that. Anybody who is anybody knows you cannot leave a witness. He was still alive. Oren was. So not only did he just go through this tragic fucking event with his kid and watching his son die right in front of him, he now is having Pierre on top of him with a wire wrapped around his throat, trying to strangle him. When it failed, Pierre and Andrews inserted a ballpoint pen into his ear, and Pierre stomped it until it punctured his eardrum, broke, and exited the side of his throat. Pierre and Andrews then went upstairs, finished loading equipment into their van, and departed. See, that's just depressing to me. Like, at that point, come on, get a life, you guys. Fuck, these guys are... Ugh. Anyways, so the bodies were discovered almost 3 hours later when Oren's wife and other son came into the store looking for them. Oren's son heard noises coming from the basement and broke down the back door, while Mrs. Walker called the Ogden City Police. Stanley Walker and Ansley were already dead. Carol Naisbitt was taken by ambulance to Ogden Regional Medical Center, but was pronounced dead on arrival. Courtney, though not expected to live, survived with severe and irreparable brain damage. He was hospitalized for 266 days before being released. Oren Walker survived with extensive burns to his mouth and chin, as well as the damage to his ear caused by the pen. So, hours after the news of the crime broke, an anonymous Air Force employee called the Ogden Police Department and told them that Andrews had confided to him months earlier, "One of these days, I'm going to rob that hi-fi shop, and if anybody gets in the way, I'm going to kill them." Hours later, 2 teenage boys who were dumpster diving near Hill Air Force Base. So if you know anything about Utah, Hill Air Force Base is like 25 minutes away. Well, now with how big Utah is, it's a little longer. But back when I was younger, it was about 25, 30 minutes away. So it wasn't that far. Where Pierre and Andrews were stationed, contacted the police after discovering the victims' wallets and purses, recognizing their pictures from the driver's licenses. So, detective shows up on the scene, starts noticing, there's a crowd. They know something real is going down at that point. Notices 2 guys talking rather loudly when the wallets and everything are picked up. So, at that point, based on the 2 men's reactions to the evidence being removed from the trash bin and the officer's implication of Andrews, Pierre, and Robert of Andrews, Pierre and Andrews were arrested. A search warrant was then issued for their barracks. Police found flyers for the hi-fi shop and a rental contract for a unit at a public storage facility. Following the issuance of another search warrant, stereo equipment taken from the hi-fi shop, later identified via serial numbers, was recovered from the unit. Also recovered was the half-empty bottle of drano that was used on the victims. With the collection of the evidence, Pierre and Andrews were charged with first-degree murder and aggravated robbery. Another airman, Keith Roberts, who had waited outside the hi-fi shop in a getaway vehicle, was charged with armed robbery. So, Pierre, Andrews, and Robert were tried all together for first-degree murder and robbery. Pierre and Andrews were convicted of all charges and sentenced to death. Roberts was convicted only of robbery and was sentenced to imprisonment. He was paroled in 1987, and during the trial, it was revealed that Pierre and Andrews had robbed the store with the intention of killing anyone they came across, and in the months prior to the robbery, had been looking for a way to commit the murders quietly and cleanly. The two men repeatedly watched the film Magnum Force, which here's where I got conflicting things. Like, I got Dirty Harry from one source. My grandmother, who still lives in the area, told me that it was Dirty Harry and it wasn't Magnum Force. But, it could be Magnum Force because the prostitute, who was played by Margaret Avery, was forced to drink drano. And is then shown immediately dropping dead. Which, come on, bro. Really? That's Hollywood. You don't believe that shit. Survivor Oren Walker was the star witness for the prosecution. Due to his amnesia of the events, Courtney Nesbitt was unable to testify. But his father, Dr. Byron Nesbitt, did testify. So, Dale Pierre Selby was 21 years old at the time of the crime. Moved to Brooklyn, New York from Trinidad and Tobago at the age of 17. Let's see here. In May 1973, he entered active service with the United States Air Force and was transferred to Hill Air Force Base in September of 1973 as a helicopter mechanic. Almost on arrival, Pierre became the prime suspect in the October 5th, 1973 murder of Edward Jefferson, an Air Force sergeant at Hill Air Force Base. Though police lacked enough evidence to file charges against him. At the time of the hi-fime murders, Pierre was out on bail for car theft from a Salt Lake City car dealership. On the 16th of November of 1974, Pierre was convicted of 3 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of aggravated robbery for the hi-fi crimes. On November 20th, 1974, he was given 3 death sentences, 1 for each of the murder victims. While in prison, he changed his name at least 27 times, reportedly to protect his family name from notoriety, finally settling on Dale Pierre Selby. Simply, all he did was swap around his names. That's it. After exhaustion of appeals, Pierre was executed by lethal injection on August 28th, 1987 at the age of 34. At the time of his death, Pierre bequeathed all his money, $29, to Andrews. William Andrews was 19 years old at the time of the crimes. During the trial, it was revealed that he and Selby had the intention of killing anyone they came across while robbing the store. Andrews was executed by lethal injection July 30th, 1992. The court found that Keith Roberts had no role in or knowledge of the murders. He was, however, convicted of armed robbery. He was paroled in 1987. Pierre and Andrews became notoriously hated prisoners of the Utah State Prison and were particularly reviled on death row. In 1977, convicted murderer Gary Gilmore was reported to have said, "I'll see you in hell, Pierre and Andrews," as he passed their cells on the way to his execution by firing squad. So, there's a lot of controversy about this one. Because a lot of people are saying that they were convicted because they were black males. They weren't convicted because they were black males. They had a key witness, a victim, who was able to identify those two there, who remembered. They found all kinds of things that linked them to this crime. It's honestly kind of depressing, if I'm able to say that anyways, because not only did they ruin their lives, they also ruined the lives of so many others. Like, come on. Courtney passed away at the age of 44. And not long after the 27... Was it 27? 47. I don't even remember. Not long after the anniversary of everything happening, Oren passed away. So, I mean, while I was speaking with my grandmother, who I call Nanny, by the way, on the phone today about it, because she was asking me what my next episode was on, I just happened to say the hi-fime murders, and she goes, shit, I haven't thought about that in decades. Danielle, what the hell? But as we spoke about it, I got her side. She told me, she goes, it was a scary time at that point because Ogden was the type of place, it was a small town back then. You were able to walk from point A to point B in the dark as a female and not feel like you were going to be attacked or anything. And then she confided in me that she did not live that far from there at that point in time. So, I mean, just knowing that this murder happened in my hometown, not far from where I was born and raised, streetwise, like literally just blocks away, and blocks away from where my daddy was raised, it really just hit home. And I wanted to kind of just throw caution to the wind and say, fuck it, I'm covering this shit. Like, Pierre and Andrews, you know what? People need to stop playing the race card on this. If you have evidence on this and you're linked to that crime, you're screwed. Sorry, don't pull the race card. This had nothing to do with the fact that they were African American. It had nothing to do with it. What it had to do with was circumstantial, and the fact that anything in the stolen materials were there. Found out by serial numbers. Eyewitness, aka Oren Walker, who was a victim, was able to identify them. So, I mean, it's insane to even think about it. Like, three people's lives, because Dr. Byron Naisbitt, his life was drastically changed as well because of the fact that he not only lost his wife that night, he lost a huge part of his son. His son was never the same after that. He did go through life, he got married, had children, everything like that, but due to this one incident, it caused him to have an early death. So, after Courtney died, his father, all he would say to the press was, that's it. It's the end of the hi-fime murders. Not another word of it. That was all he had to say. And you know what? Good for him. His family should not have to live up for the fact that these two airmen did something they knew was illegal. But at the same time, military was different back then. Now they would have been court-martialed for simple car theft. 70s were different. And we got to keep that in mind. Everything was different back then. Just the fact that it was solved so quickly. It's almost like it's an episode of Law and Order. There's the bad guy. Go get him. Criminal Minds. There. I mean, all it took was good detective work and the citizens helping. Like, holy crap. Check out the book, The Anatomy of Motive. This case is in there, and he nailed it right on the head. They're former FBI. Oh my gosh. It is amazing. I have it actually on my laptop out in the living room. And I loved it. Simple as that. That's all I gotta say. I loved it. Shoutouts. Let's see here. First off, I want to give a shout out to my nanny. Holy crap. We spent like 45 minutes on the phone about the hi-fime murders today. And just from her aspect of it was scary for her because she had kids. I don't blame her for being scared. Holy fuck, you live like 2.5 blocks away from it? Yeah, you're gonna be fucking scared. Let's see here. Wine and Crime. Loving it. True Crime Guys. That's another one I'm listening to at the moment. What else? There's so much more. No, I have not seen Don't Fuck with Cats. It's on my list. I'll get to it eventually, people. I kind of been revisiting my youth and watching the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers original movie and Johnny Tsunami and Brink. So, let's see. Tuesday, I'll be back with a whole new episode on cults. Like I said, Tuesday is Cult Tuesday. Hey! And then next Friday will be another episode. I already have an idea on what that one's going to be. So, remember guys, keep checking Crime Stoppers. Keep an eye out for those missing kiddos. If you have any suggestions for podcasts, dude, I'm so down. I have Spotify. Throw that shit down below in the comments. I'm always down for it. Thank you everyone for liking, commenting, subscribing, everything. Y'all have been amazing. Thanks, Amanda and Kristen. Yeah, just keep it up, you guys. We are doing awesome. And I will see you guys on Tuesday. Hopefully y'all had a great new year. I know I did. I spent it with kiddos and my in-laws, and it was amazing. And remember, comment, like, subscribe, follow me on Facebook. And yeah, I'll see you guys back here on Tuesday. Mwah.